Good morning. Thankful that you all took time out of your busy schedules to come share with us our monthly meeting. It is my esteemed pleasure. Certainly I want to acknowledge Bishop Porter, Chair Emeritus, and Pastor Harrell, as well for hosting our meeting and the rest of the team. And listen, I'm thankful to have the opportunity to introduce our speaker for today. I'm just so excited about, as they say, hippopotamus happy about this opportunity because the Lord inspired me to reach out. I didn't know whether he would accept it or not, but I reached out, and I believe that he has acquired some wisdom beyond his years in these past few months that he can share. Amen. Beyond theory. A lot of times we have political theory, but then there's political realism. And I believe that he can transition, he has in a lot of ways, from the theory to the reality. And as leaders, we can benefit, I believe, from his experience. And so I asked him if he would come and just to share about the art of 21st century leadership. And we're in a new era, a new time. And so I'm just delighted that our dear friend and brother, beloved, humble brother, I've known him for years, and he is a family man as well, Christian. And so we're delighted to have him to come to share with us this morning. Please, would you stand and join me in welcoming to Proviso. He's no stranger to Proviso. Our speaker for this morning, and the Honorable Great Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. Yeah.
Bishop Sample, everything that you just mentioned in your introduction, I leaned over to Bishop Porter. I said, none of that is in my speech, so I'm going to have to rewrite that. I said 21st century something, something, something. But it is really my pleasure and honor to be with you all. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You know, and it's always good to be on the west side of Chicago. Here in Proviso. Thank you, Bishop Porter, for your leadership, and Dr. Jones has been retired for a couple of years now. Can you all just give a special shout out to the senior pastor of the West Side, Emeritus Dr. Jones? What's up? You know, I do that because some of my family members attend this church, and you know, I want to make sure he looks out for them. You know, but it is really good to see so many familiar faces today. It's brought me tremendous, you know, joy to walk in this room and be amongst friends. You know, to the Township Ministerial Alliance Network, and to all of you who are gathered here today, it really has warmed my heart. And of course, Pastor John Harrell, thank you for serving as host today. But I really want to thank all of you all for coming out this morning to discuss the critical issues that are facing not just the city of Chicago, but the entire region, and quite frankly, our country. I think it's quite fitting that we are having this discussion in church, because I believe the greatest transformation that can ever happen happens in church basements. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a son of a pastor, my grandfather was a pastor, and everyone in my life was a pastor, so that's why I became a teacher. That was supposed to be a joke. You know, I know the hours of pastors, and it's a non-union job too. It's terrible. But I do find comfort and guidance in my faith, you know, because when we talk about justice, that is how we live, right? The just, we live by our faith. And when I think about, you know, church basements and the importance and the relevance of how pastors and churches play a deep role into neighborhoods, you are uniquely capable of reaching out and speaking to the community. You know, I think about my father in this moment, 82 years old. I still duck when I'm in his presence. You know, I may be mayor of Chicago, but Andrew Leon Johnson II, you know, is still my covering. And I can sum him up with one book, and that's the book of James. He understood that if our work and our faith is not aligned, we are not alive. And so everything that we do, we have to put it into action. And that's what is required in this moment. Some of the greatest fights and the most important moments and movements, the church community has served as meeting points, rallying points. Marches has been planned here. Organizing has been planned here. You know, church announcements are deeply connected to Black liberation. That was how we gave our people guidance of not just what's going on during the week, but how we could experience the fullness of what we believe our God promised us. And so providing the emotional, physical, moral, and spiritual support, that is what the faith community means to me. And still today our churches provide safe spaces, not just for places of worship and to remember, but really a gathering place for our young people to be connected. These important issues are still very relevant today. I like to say it this way, Bishop Saffold, in my less than 1 year in office, let me repeat that, y'all. It ain't been 4 years yet. One thing that I've learned for sure, that there are forces out there that have not accepted the results of the Civil War. And they are calling for a rematch, you all. This is not hyperbole. And so when we think about the faith community, in particular the labor movement, Dr. King understood that those two forces coming together because he saw that our agendas were the same. He said what enormous potential it would have. And so we are in a very strong position to ensure that what our ancestors could only dream of, that the fullness and the manifestation of that is in full effect. I don't think it's a coincidence that God and 52.7% of the voters in the city of Chicago elected me on April 4th, the day in which we commemorate the life and legacy of Dr. King, who, by the way, y'all, is and always will be a West Sider. South Side, they can have that little street on the South Side. Simmer down. I know there's a couple of South Siders in there. Relax. We'll let you out without paying a toll. The theme of today is just being different for these unique times. I like to think of myself as a different kind of leader. Polling at 2.2%, no one gave me a chance. But yet here I be. And I'm here because of rooms like this. Coming from a background, as I said, as a public school teacher, teaching on the west side of Chicago, where I missed Dexter Reed by a year and a half, having taught at Westinghouse, organizing with the Chicago Teachers Union, serving as a Cook County Commissioner, and raising my family on the west side of Chicago. The perspective that I believe in this moment that is required is someone who knows that we have come this far by our faith. And I'm so grateful that we serve a God that does not drop us off halfway through the mission. Yes, sir. And so what does that mission look like over the last couple of months? There were wildfires coming in from Canada. There was unprecedented floods on the west side of Chicago. And migrants coming from the south. And my wife said to me, she said, honey, if the locusts come, somebody might need to repent. And then measles showed up. But from the beginning of my administration, of course my time as Cook County Commissioner, working for you all, we have to continue to work to ensure that the most effective forms of governance have to take precedence in this moment. The inequities that exist in our society, we have to work hard to eradicate. And what does that work look like over the course, again? Not just with the challenges, but a $16.77 billion budget that I balanced. And I told people a year ago when I was running that it was a $500 million shortfall. We corrected that without raising property taxes. Now in the Church of God in Christ, they usually break out into song and dance. It has truly been a blessing and a privilege. I've been humbled serving as the mayor of the city of Chicago and surrounded by so many great mayors like Mayor Harvey, who made it very clear that once I became mayor that my suits had to become tailored. So thank you. I'm still working on that. And you got a couple I can borrow.
offering for it.
But it really takes a commitment of true community leaderships in collaboration with all of our leaders. That includes our business leaders, government leaders, to ensure that the people of Chicago get everything that they deserve. And what does that look like again? Yes, sir. And so $250 million to fight homelessness in the city of Chicago. We did that. $100 million for violence prevention. We did that. 2 administrations ago, mental health clinics were shut down. Well, I'm opening up 2 mental health clinics this year. Investments downtown. One of the biggest investments that we've seen in a generation, converting old buildings downtown into affordable housing. 30% of the new housing downtown. Let me say that one more time. Downtown and affordability. When have you ever heard of that? Come on. We've done that. Multi-billion-dollar deals. I have a $1.25 billion bonds deal that's being voted on right now. That's going to provide $600 million for economic and corridor development, affordable housing, and creating pathways to home ownership. But here's the good news about it. The $1.25 billion bonds deal, here's how we're going to pay for it. Remember when Mayor Harold Washington put together the TIFs in the first place? Yeah. And then you had other administrations poison it? Yeah. Well, the slush funds that were used to go into the hands of those who didn't need it, we're going to keep the portion of Mayor Harold Washington's original intent of TIFs, and then the slush funds, we're going to use that to pay back the bonds that will ultimately go into our community. We provided paid time off for hundreds of thousands of workers. We've abolished the sub-minimum wage for tip workers, primarily black and brown women. We've hired almost 25,000 young people last summer for summer positions, a 20% increase from the previous summer. I added an additional $76 million on top of that to hire 4,000 more young people. That's a total of 28,000 young people this summer for summer jobs. We have established real dollars towards a reparations commission, $500,000 to move towards reparations for our people. And I stood up for the first time in the history of Chicago, Office of Reentry. It's a $5 million investment to hire and to promote programs and services and guidance for those who are returning from jail and incarceration. As well as how we make sure that our brothers and sisters are returning home, they have a pathway to dignity. And here's the final good news, you all. We have done this during extraordinary times. There is a tyrant at the border that is looking to create chaos in black cities. And I get it, this has been difficult for our people with this migrant mission. This is literally, you know how many times I heard as a child when people talked about, I'm just like Mayor Harvey, I say things that get me in controversial tweets all the time. Truth, normal. But you literally have the white man doing to the black man. You gotta listen. This is quintessential example of how a white individual, his iniquitous behavior that is trying to cause chaos in my city. Yes, come on now, come on. Almost 11,000 migrant children are being educated. We have moved 37,000 people through our city. That is the size of Maywood, Bellwood, Broadview, Forest Park, Oak Park, an entire region in my city at one time. And let me tell you this, if it was chaotic, you would know by now. Thank you, Mayor Harvey, for giving me space to tell the truth. And I believe it is incumbent upon us as faith leaders, even as God used Joseph to take care of his siblings and feed the world, so shall Chicago do the same. I am not going to allow political forces to divide us in this moment. I actually think it's quite ironic that descendants of slaves and individuals who are indigenous to the area, that you have white supremacy trying to get us to fight each other. Can I just tell the truth? These are people who were here, who were forced south. And then there was a whole ship that brought us over, and we're going to allow a Texas governor to try to separate us in this moment? Not under my watch. There's more than enough for everybody in this city. Since y'all gave me extra time, I want to add this last. For the first time in the history of Chicago, we have a black vice mayor, we have chairs of rules budget, and finance. We have more black people in my administration than in the history of the city.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the best part about it is black folks in the midst of this time of leadership, white families and brown families have not lost. There are more brown people in leadership in my administration than in the history of Chicago. We are building a better, stronger, safer Chicago together. And over the course of this first year, it has been my honor to serve in this capacity. And my roots are deeply connected to this district because you all saw something in me when I ran for Cook County Commissioner. Now maybe you all didn't know that you all were preparing the next mayor of the city of Chicago. But I'm so grateful to this network and to all that you all do. And though this first year has been challenged, we have overcome, and I'm looking forward to the next 23 years in office.